Okay, friends. Like I said, mindset, mental health, negative thoughts. We're going to show you exactly why they started, where they come from, why it feels like it's impossible to overcome, and all the things in between. So let's get started. But first of all, who the hell is this chick? Why should you even listen to me? Why am I even here? Why did Mike bring me in? All that fun stuff. So a little bit of info about me. Obviously, my name's Ash. I have been a mindset coach / mental health advocate for a long time now. It's been my whole life, but I've really been studying it and really using it and helping people with it change lives for about 4 years now. I've been in the fitness industry for 12 years total. I know I don't look it, but I will be 32 this year. So it's been a long time for me. I literally have started from the bottom and made my way to the top. I don't like the word like self-made because that's bullshit, right? Like we all have help, right? And mentors and stuff. But I started a company in January of 2019 and I built it to multi-six figures in about a year and a half. And then I shifted gears entirely. That company was built on fitness, nutrition, accountability, that sort of thing, kind of what Mike does for you guys. And it shifted into mindset coaching, and we are in the process of scaling it right now. So that's me. I'm constantly changing, constantly evolving, as all of us are, and I choose to shift into that. So random facts. I have an unhealthy obsession with coffee and dubstep. Please don't judge me. I have cut down to about 2 coffees a day, so that's a lot of progress for me. And I am insanely excited for Lost Lands this year. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I am only here to speak to your higher self. So if you have any ego, take it, check it, leave it at the door, because I'm going to speak life into you, and we can't have egos blocking that shit today. Okay. By the way, I do cuss a lot, so I will try my best to limit it, but I got a bit of a potty mouth, so just bear with me. All right, so just a little bit about my past. You kind of know where I came from and how I started all this. I grew up on the east side of Detroit, Michigan. If you guys are not familiar, to the Midwest, it's inside the big Great Five Lakes. I suffered a lot of verbal abuse, physical abuse as a child. I have had all the things done to me. Got one person coming in, 1 second. And it's just been a really fun ride to get where I'm at right now, to be honest with you. I grew up very, very poor. I mean, legitimately poor. So I'm talking like not knowing where your next meal is coming from, not having heat in the middle of a winter, that type of poor. So I had scarcity woven into my DNA as a child. And I will explain in the future how that comes about for most of us. I started my fitness journey out of self-hate. I think most of us start our fitness journey because we just don't like the way we look. And that's basically what I did. I had a lot of body image issues. I had an eating disorder, like all of the things. I was constantly struggling with that. Let me just move this chat because it's distracting. How the hell? There we go. I did all of the things. I dated a narcissist for almost 10 years. So that was, as you can imagine, amazing for my mental health, amazing for all the insecurities I already had, and actually pulled myself out of that relationship, which was huge for me. And it was honestly a very, very big shift as far as who I was stepping into and what I was choosing to leave behind that didn't serve me anymore. I was very passive aggressive. I was extremely submissive, not in the healthy way, submissive, very insecure. I was a hot mess. And now, after all this healing, all the unlearning I've done on myself, I find myself more passionate, more loving, more expansive. And I am just a big mindset and mental health healer now. So that's a little bit about me. But this is about you now. So let's shift gears a little bit here. A big thing I see happen a lot with people in the world, I won't even say in this industry, people in the world, go sit down. Sorry guys, my dog, she's like the needy only child. She doesn't listen. People tend to confuse who they are present day with where they are present day. And when I say that, what I mean is there are two different versions of you. There's your highest self, the one that has like the hot body, has all the money, has the amazing relationship. And then there's you presently, kind of stuck in between where you are now and with your past, right? So we call it your highest self and your lower self. And we constantly get confused our highest self with where we are right now and the things that we're being faced with right now. Well, oh, I'm struggling with money right now. Oh my God, I am, my trauma. And we continuously affirm like these old stories about ourselves. And all that does is keep you stuck. The thing you're dealing with right now, like the obstacles you're facing in this 3D reality, that's not who you are. It's what you're experiencing that is trying to grow you and expand you so that you can step into the next version of yourself. What you're experiencing is not who you are. And a lot of people make that mistake, and I'm trying to pull you out of it today. That's my main goal. So stop mistaking your highest self with your current state, with what you're facing right now, because those are two totally different things. So let's get in. Why it's so easy to stay stuck in old thought patterns. I'm going to bring a little bit of neuroscience into it just so you guys kind of understand where it comes from, but I'm not going to speak over your head because that's not going to help you. So essentially, like I was just saying, your highest self, who you desire to be, that super amazing goal you have in your head, and your lower self, they want the same exact thing. We get stuck in patterns and we self-sabotage and we talk down on ourselves because the brain thinks it's trying to keep you safe. The body's only goal is to ever keep you safe. And even though these habits might not be healthy, the thoughts might not be healthy, the brain still looks at it as safety because it is familiar. It's how you've been for the last 10, 20, 30 years. It is familiar. And the brain associates familiarity with safety and comfort. But your highest self, what your highest self wants for you is also safety. That looks like financial freedom. That looks like a healthy relationship with you, a healthy romantic relationship. That is safety as well. And so once we can realize that lowest self wants safety, highest self wants safety, how do we close that gap so that the two can work together? And that's when everything changes, right? And a lot of us get stuck because the ego tends to pull us down. When I say ego is, it's very interchangeable with like lower self, inner child, like the part of you that wants to constantly keep pulling you down and keep you stuck with where you're at. And as a lot of us know, like me too, like I'm not separate from this. We all struggle with it. The most successful people in the world still struggle with it. It's just that we choose different and we take different actions. That's the only difference. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to let someone in here. And the ego will constantly pull you down when it sees you pulling away, right? So when we're trying to step into this newest version of us, like the best person we could ever possibly be, they have all of this money, they got the good relationship, they got the good body, they got the good mental health. That person requires you to detach from your old self, which means you are detaching from your old habits, from your old thoughts. This is not easy. And when the ego feels you pulling away, you will start to feel some resistance. That's why a lot of people start a journey, whether it's fitness, financial, career-wise, whatever. They start this new journey, and then like after like 2 months, they stop and they fall back. They fall back into their old patterns. Why? Because we're constantly trying to pull away from what used to be our identity, what we thought was our identity. And that's why like people start their journey like, oh my God, I'm so motivated, I got this. And then 2 weeks later, they fall off because the ego's pulling them back down. Because once the brain recognizes, oh, you're trying to pull us away from safety, which is old habits, right? Old programming, it will kind of fight back. And that's when you get pulled back into your old habits. The brain is addicted to stress response. Like neurologically in the brain, it is addicted to stress response. Okay. And this is why we get addicted as humans to habits that are not necessarily good for us, because those habits release a stress response in the brain, right? It's constantly in fight or flight. Why is that? Because when we take action that doesn't align with our highest self, or we have poor habits, or we make poor choices, or we have the really negative thoughts that go on in our head on a loop, that gives you an adrenaline rush, right? It's a dopamine hit. So it's kind of like, and it's not the greatest analogy, but it's kind of like an addict being addicted to any type of substance. That's how addictive poor habits are to the brain, because it releases a stress response. And that's why people stay stuck so long. This is why it's so hard for some addicts. Yes, this is why it's so hard for some addicts to ever get out of that loop, because the brain is constantly like, ooh, adrenaline rush, ooh, dopamine hit. And that chemical release in the brain is so fucking addictive to the nervous system that we're constantly going back. We're going back to our old habits. We're going back to our old ways. We're allowing the ego to keep pulling us down. Because you know what doesn't release a huge dopamine hit? Peace, love, gratitude, calm, neutrality. These do not release huge dopamine hits in the brain. It's not as addictive. Being happy is a fucking choice. Choosing better for yourself is a choice. This is why people stay stuck. It's much harder to shift over to gratitude, peace, and joy. That takes effort. That takes going into your subconscious brain and saying, I refuse to believe these thoughts about myself. The thoughts that say, I'm not enough, I'm not skinny enough, I'm not sexy enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not rich enough. Yes, you are. And it takes effort, and you don't get a dopamine hit when you go in and you say, yes, I am. I do deserve better. That is why people stay stuck. It's because of a literal chemical release in the brain. There is nothing wrong with you. This is very, very normal. Now, there are ways we can increase dopamine hits as far as it being more for a positive influence. But typically when we are doing something that brings us peace or joy or gratitude, it's like get more of what we call like a serotonin boost. But serotonin boosts are not as powerful as dopamine hits in the brain. Okay, keep that in your mind as I continue to talk about this. And again, this is why we constantly stay chained to our current not so great reality, because that dopamine hit goes off and it's like, it's literally like, give me some more of that. Talk more shit about yourself. Eat the fries, eat all of it. Keep sabotaging. The brain wants you to sabotage because it gets a dopamine hit off of that. Okay. I'm letting one more person in. Give me a second. All right. So current self-limiting beliefs. By the way, if you're not familiar with what a limiting belief is essentially any type of belief system in our brain that's not so healthy and that's not true, that we subconsciously believe, and that influences the action we take, that influences, the way we show up, that influences the moves we make in this 3D reality, is because we believe a certain thing, a certain identity in our head that was never ours to begin with. A limiting belief could be, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, I will never be able to achieve that, I'm not smart enough, they're better than me, why is everyone having more success than me, how come I'm still stuck? It's like constantly playing victim. And I don't say this to shame any of you, because it's a normal part of the process. I struggled with victimhood a lot. Like me, why me, my trauma, how come I don't have that? This is very common. So I'm not shaming you, but this is literally what keeps us stuck and keeps us hooked back to those limiting beliefs that keep you right here instead of reaching for your highest self. Okay. We keep these feelings and situations around because they become addicting because of that dopamine hit that comes in the brain. And this allows us to easily tap into that stress response that you actually secretly desire, right? We don't think about it that way. But if we look at it from like an addict point of view, addicts have that mindset because they desire the drug, right? Even though they know it's not good for them, they desire it. That's what your brain is doing when anything negative is coming up. Sorry, 1 second, letting someone in. That's what the brain is doing when anything negative comes up, okay? That stress response controls your actions. And when a stress response happens in the brain, it puts your nervous system in fight or flight. You guys know what fight or flight is, right? It's like either like something like an alarm goes off in your brain that alerts you, says, okay, danger. And then it puts you into fight or flight so that you take action. You get an adrenaline rush and you either go and take massive quick action or you stay stuck, right? That's what happens in the nervous system. That's what happens in the brain when you get that dopamine hit. If any of you are a little confused or lost, please just drop it in the chat and I will slow down, okay? I want you to actually absorb this. Now, where do these negative thoughts and beliefs come from? This is the juicy shit. This is why you guys are here, right? So something to be aware of before I jump into this and why it can be a little bit more challenging to reprogram subconscious thoughts. Your conscious mind is operating only 5% of the time. That's actually very scary. So you think like, as you're going through your day, like, oh, I'm fully conscious, I'm making all these decisions. You're not. Your subconscious brain is running the show 95% of the day, every day. And in your subconscious brain is where the limiting beliefs are, is where the negative self-talk is. Some people aren't even aware of the negative thoughts that play on a loop in the back of their head, but it lives in the subconscious brain. So imagine 95% of the day, the negative thoughts in your head are, okay, the negative thoughts in your head are running the show 95% of the day. And then we sit and we wonder, well, why am I not making progress? Why am I still stuck in these same habits? It's because you have to become aware of your subconscious thoughts. You have to become conscious of the unconscious. And when you do that, you can actually start reprogramming the thoughts because you're actually catching them. But most of the world, unfortunately, doesn't function this way. And everyone is just constantly staying in their subconscious programming. Okay. Now, your subconscious mind is where all of your trauma lives. We love that. Everyone has trauma. No one is going to sit here and fight me on it. Everyone has it. It just affects us very differently. There's little t trauma, there's big T trauma, but everyone has some sort of trauma. And it is the reason why you are in the position you are right now. 100%. Okay. All trauma is valid. It doesn't matter, oh, well, mine is smaller. It doesn't matter. It does. All trauma is valid. But the big question is, why are we choosing to stay stuck in those thoughts from said trauma? Why are we choosing to stay stuck in the limiting beliefs and the negative self-talk that runs our life? Why are we choosing it? Because subconsciously, you are choosing it until you become aware of it. Okay, so I'm going to explain brainwave frequencies really quick. I'm going to make it very simple. I'm not going to explain all of them to you, only the ones that you need to know. I was supposed to put what's the name? A graph here, and I forgot. So I'm going to explain them. So 3 brainwave frequencies that are important when it comes to negative self-talk and how we can unlearn that. You have delta brainwaves. Delta is basically drowsing, like when you're sleeping, when you're dreaming. That's delta, right? Now, you live in delta. Your brain waves live in delta while you're inside of the womb up until the last trimester. Okay, so you have no input on what's coming in your brain because your brain is completely drowsed. It's sleep. All right. Then you go into what's called theta phase. Theta brain waves are, Mike, I'm assuming that's you. If not, just check the chat because I will get distracted. Theta brain waves is where you are from you're like in like the last trimester of being inside the womb up until you're 6 years old. That's theta phase. Inside of theta phase, your brain waves are very drowsy. They're not sleep like in delta, but they're very drowsy. And in theta phase, your brain, your subconscious brain, mind you, that's where all the programming is. That's where all the negative thoughts are. Your subconscious brain is completely open to suggestion, which means anything that you hear or see or witness goes into your subconscious brain as your belief system now. You cannot formulate your own opinion about anything outside of you or inside of you when you are in theta phase. It is neurologically impossible. And that's why a lot of trauma is rooted in our childhood, because 3rd trimester to 6 years old, you had no say in what you believed. The input that you got put in your brain, you had no say in that because your brain was literally incapable of having an opinion. That's fucking terrifying if you ask me. This is why I don't have kids, because I'm healing. I'm not healed. You know what I mean? So you have to be very careful. Like, what are we saying to kids when they're in this age gap, right? And people are not aware of that. We'll get into more of that in a bit. And then there's alpha brainwaves. We start to shift over to alpha when we're about the age gap. I mean, my God, there's so much research on it. Like 5, 6, 7 years old. We start to shift over to alpha brainwaves. Alpha brainwaves are a little bit more awake. It's more like when you're meditating and like when you're very present and you're grounded and you're very in the moment, that's alpha. Your brainwaves are very relaxed. They're extremely creative. They're very playful. And kids are in alpha functioning brainwaves from like 6, 7 up until I believe it's like 10 to 12 years old. And that's why you'll notice like when kids get in that age gap, they daydream a lot. They'll just like color random shit a lot. They'll sketch a bunch of stuff. They get very, very creative because they're living in alpha brainwaves. Like imagine living in a meditative state. You could literally never be mad, right? And those are the brainwaves where your brain is most impressionable. This is where the subconscious programming is open to suggestion. It's completely open in theta. You could say the world is flat in theta, and a kid is going to grow up thinking the world is flat. That's his belief system right off the rip. Okay. Now, micro trauma versus macro trauma. When in regards to like being in theta phase, like when a bulk of our childhood trauma happens inside the theta phase, again, 3rd trimester to up 6, 7 years old, this is when the big T trauma happens, because we could not formulate any type of opinion about this shit. It just happened to us. Our alarm system went off. We panicked. We went to fight or flight mode. And now our brain holds that trauma. Our body holds onto that trauma for the rest of our lives until we deal with it. And we bring it to the surface. Okay. And again, it does not matter if it's little T trauma, big T trauma. All trauma affects the brain the exact same way, right? The parts of the brain that are affected when there's a trauma response outside of you. And guys, trauma could be something small, especially when you're in theta phase. It does not need to be massive. It could be, oh, Billy at school made fun of my eyebrows. And now you have a complex about eyebrows for the rest of your life until you address it. And then there's also big T trauma. Little Susie witnessed her dad physically abuse her mom when she was in theta phase. Now she doesn't trust men, or she goes and she chooses men as partners just like him. You see what I mean? It doesn't matter what type of trauma it is. It all affects the brain the exact same way. So when we are experiencing this, the parts of the brain that are affected is the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex is up here, and then the amygdala, which is, it's like this little tiny hook piece, and it's like right in the middle of your brain. These are the pieces that are affected when we are dealing with trauma. When there is a trauma response outside of you that is affecting you and that alarm goes off, cortisol is flushed through the body, and norepinephrine, I can never say this word right, is released throughout the body, right? So if those levels are spiked, your body is immediately in a state of fight or flight. And it does not matter if it's little t trauma or big T trauma. The chemical release is the exact same in the brain and in the body. This is why I don't like when people try to compare traumas, because it doesn't matter what you think yours is. Everyone's physical and neurological experience is the same. I don't mean like you guys have like the same emotional reaction, but the physiological response is the same. So no comparing traumas, okay? And this is why when we're kids, we develop these beliefs about ourselves. Why do you think when we start to go through like puberty and shit, most of us get depressed, we hate ourselves, we start judging our body? It's because we start to become aware in that age gap, remember? So it's like theta phase, last trimester to 6 years old, alpha phase, 6 to 7 years old to about 10 to 12. Between 10 to 13 years old, you're entering puberty. You're also starting to enter beta waves. Now, beta waves is when you start actually analyzing shit outside of you, and you can start to formulate an opinion. So now that your brain is starting to develop more when you're in puberty, you can now take those beliefs and that trauma that you experience, and now you actually can formulate an opinion about it. Now we start internalizing it. And people wonder why kids start acting like little assholes when they get into puberty, because they can start having perspectives now. Does that make sense? Like, this is why kids act the way they do. And the more we can understand this, the more we can, one, treat ourselves better and treat other people better too, right? And so as we are coming into theta phase, let's say, for example, I give this example a lot because it's just a really good one, and it does relate to fat loss. Let's say Brittany is 4 years old, right? And her mom just made dinner for the whole family. She's sitting at the table with her dad and her brothers, and they're having spaghetti and garlic bread. And then mom is in the kitchen by herself, and she's eating a chicken breast and a salad. And the little girl's like, Mom, why aren't you eating with us? And she's like, oh, honey, I can't eat that. I'm on a diet. And she's like, well, what's a diet? And the mom's like, oh, it's something that you do. You eat less food when you need to lose weight. And the kid's like, well, why do you need to lose weight? And mom's like, oh, because I'm fat. And the mom doesn't realize what she just did. But now the little girl just internalized that as a belief system. And one of two things is going to happen. One, she's going to become anorexic and starve herself because she thinks she's fat. Or two, she'll have a binge eating disorder. Do you see what just happened? Like, we think these are small, not so big instances. But when you are in these brainwave frequencies, that is when the beliefs happen. This is why people struggle with fat loss issues. This is why people struggle with mental health. This is why people struggle with relationship issues. This is why people struggle with money issues. Because your brain was a fucking sponge for literally almost 7 years of your life when you first got into this world, when you are the most impressionable, when you can't have an opinion about anything about shit outside of the world or inside of you. And then we grow up and we internalize them, and we're like 20 years old, 25 years old, like, dude, why am I still struggling with this shit? This is ridiculous. This is why, right? And on another note, your brain is not completely formed and done being developed until you're 25. So think about that. Like, you're still developing, you're still learning, you're still processing trauma and embedding it as a belief system until you're 25 years old. Have some fucking grace for yourselves. It is okay to struggle. No one says that you start your mindset journey now and you have to be completely transformed and healed in a year. That's ridiculous. You've experienced trauma and limiting beliefs for the last 25 years. Why would you be all of a sudden magically healed in a year? Give yourself some grace. This stuff takes time. Okay? And you can heal all that. You are not eternally fucked, I promise. Okay, how we unlearn these things. I'm going to give you guys a few tangible things you can use. I've talked to a few of you about this before, a couple of these things, not all of them. But these are some tactics that you desperately want to incorporate. I don't like to tell people they have to do it, but it would really be to your benefit to incorporate these things into your daily lives and your daily habits. This is how we start taking those negative thoughts that come in, because the negative thoughts that come in, whether you're aware of them or not, because they're there, even if you're not aware of them, they are there. These thoughts, this belief system, is the exact reason why you have the reality you have right now. It's not because of anything outside of you. It's not because Billy Bob Joe at your job is a piece of shit. It's because of the belief systems you have in the back of your head. All right. We are made of energy. The human body is 99.9999% energy. Everything outside of you is 99.9999% energy. Like attracts like. It's a very common cliche saying, but it's very true. It's a study of energetics. This is actual science. You are a perfect match for who you are right now. You're only going to attract more of who you are right now. And until you start working on this, you will constantly attract more of that. Whether that's bad finances, not the body you want, shitty relationships, treating yourself like garbage, you will attract more of it until you go back here in your subconscious brain and start working through the limiting beliefs and redirecting them. With love, not shame. I want to make that very clear. So, if you don't do anything else after this presentation, please go get this book, The Astonishing Power of Emotions by Jerry Hicks. I get it on Audible because I don't like to actually read physically, but you can buy the book as well. Go get it on Audible, go buy it, whatever. But this book is a really, really clear and not super sciencey, not annoying, not over the head way to redirect the negative thoughts when they come in. So in this book, they're talking about the concept of upstream thoughts and downstream thoughts. If anyone has ever been whitewater rafting, I have. It's horrifying. I will not do it again. But if you have, when you're whitewater rafting, you're going with the current, right? It's a very, very powerful current. The water is not your best friend, all right? You're going with the current. Why would you turn the raft around and start trying to paddle upstream against the current? You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to be exhausted. You're going to get pissed. And eventually that bitch is going to flip over. That's an upstream thought. Upstream thoughts are the negative thoughts that come in. Oh my God, I'm broke. Oh my God, I'm ugly. Oh my God, I'm not enough. I can't do this. Those are upstream thoughts. You're fighting yourself. You're not going to get anywhere. Imagine if you take the oars, put them in the raft, turn the raft around, and you just let yourself float down the stream. Sounds a lot easier. Sounds relaxing. Sounds like there's no effort. And it sounds like you're going to get to your destination a lot fucking faster. Does that concept make sense? That's the concept of upstream versus downstream thoughts. So let's say a negative thought comes in, and let's just say you got out of a shitty relationship or something, right? And you're miserable. You didn't want to break up. You miss them. You're hurt. You're in pain. And all these crazy thoughts are coming in. And so now you choose to put in a downstream thought. Downstream thoughts are thoughts that, one, provide the body with physical relief in the nervous system. Like you go from heightened state to, okay. So it needs to provide the body with physical relief. It needs to be believable to you present day, and it needs to be true to the brain. Those three things, that's a downstream thought. If you don't write shit else down, write that down again. All right. Downstream thought has to provide relief to the nervous system, has to be true to you present day, has to be believable. You pick some of those downstream thoughts. I have a few standard ones that I always use whenever a negative thought comes up. And you put those in every time a negative thought pops up. So let's say in this instance, you're mourning the relationship, you feel terrible, you get into a heightened state of emotion, the alarm system go off in your head, fight or flight is triggered. And instead we can go in and we can say, there were some really beautiful parts of that relationship. Downstream thought. Whatever is meant for me will be. Downstream thought. The relationship was actually kind of unhealthy anyways. Downstream thought. Now you feel a little bit better, even if only 1% better. You're providing your brain with evidence of what's actually true instead of trying to lie to it. And now you can move on with your day. Because you've taken the heightened state of your body and you've calmed it down. And I have to make this very clear, guys. These affirmations, manifestations, they don't work if you're stressed the fuck out. If your nervous system is dysregulated, nothing works. That's why it's so powerful for the thought to provide your body with instant relief. Because if it doesn't, anything you say afterwards is not going to work. Okay? The body cannot work for you when it's in a state of fight or flight. Got it? Great. Now, giving your subconscious brain evidence. I'm going to tie the next one into it because it correlates. And asking yourself, is this really true? So anytime you get triggered or you have some crazy thoughts pop up, some negative thoughts pop up, I want you to do two things. One, ask yourself, is this really true? If you're having a crazy moment, and let's say I got a couple entrepreneurs on here, so I'll use that as an instance. Oh my God, I'm going to be broke. I'm going to be homeless. I'm going to live on the streets because I only signed up 2 clients this month instead of 10. The world is over. And you literally have 3 months of expenses saved in your bank account. right? Ask yourself, is this really true? You're like, well, no, I guess it's not over. Like, I'll be fine, right? Give your subconscious brain evidence after that point. Maybe the evidence is, we have more than enough for right now. We did sign up 5 clients last month. We still have 12 days left of this month. I have more than enough money to pay for all of my bills for the next few months. So what did you just do? You provided the body with physical relief. You gave your brain evidence of what is actually true, and you turned your thoughts downstream. Okay. If you consistently use that over a long period of time, I'd say like at least it takes at least minimum 3 months to create new neural pathways in the brain. New neural pathways are just beliefs, thoughts. So if you're doing this consistently, yes, it takes time, but it is powerful. I've used it myself. Okay. Next, affirmations versus incremental beliefs. I cannot stand the affirmation community. That shit does not work. The whole sprinkle holy water on yourself, spin in a circle 3 times and say, I'm a millionaire 20 times every day and you'll become a millionaire. No, that doesn't work that way. That doesn't even make any logical sense, right? So what we're going to do instead is give ourselves incremental beliefs instead of these outlandish affirmations that our brain is never going to believe. It's like trying to jump from 0 to 100. It's like trying to drive a car with no gas. It does not work. Okay. So an incremental belief instead will be something like, let's say like, let's just talk about money again. Okay. Let's say you make like $4,000 a month and your goal is to get to, I don't know, 10 grand a month, right? You're not going to get there by saying, I make 10K a month, I make 10K a month, I make 10K a month. You're not going to get there that way. Give yourself an incremental belief. So instead, maybe you say, you know what? I know that it's actually really doable for me to make 5K a month. Boom, we get to 5K a month. You know what would be really cool is if I made $6,000 a month. Boom, we get $6,000 a month. You see what I mean? So it's like giving your brain something achievable to look at versus giving it this stupid ass goal that you do not consciously or subconsciously believe. And when you do it that way, you'll actually get there versus telling yourself a lie every single day and thinking that's going to work. It's not going to work that way. Okay. Conditional versus unconditional self-love. My God, all of you on this call, myself included, love yourself conditionally in some way. And that is why you are stuck where you're at right now. Conditional love means I will love myself when. Not I love myself because I'm alive, because I have air in my legs. I will love myself when I lose 20 pounds. I will love myself when I make 6 figures a year. I will love myself when I have a relationship. I will love myself when I X, Y, and Z. That's conditional love. Most of us, fuck that. All of us are conditioned when it comes to love in some way. We can thank society for this. We can thank our family for this. And this is no shame to moms and dads. They did the best they could with what they had. But let's be honest, it's a big source for a lot of trauma for most of us. Right? Start loving yourself unconditionally. That is the biggest key to getting where you want to be. So I'm going to tell you something. If you don't start to love who you are right now, none of this shit works. It all works together. You must have such an undying knowing and belief that I am worthy of all the things in the world because I am alive, not because I need to prove myself. And when you can do that, shit starts to fucking change. I know it sounds very woo-woo and you're like, oh my God, self-love. No, it's real. It's a science. It's energetics. Energetics is a science. Go look it up. If you don't start with self-love first, none of this shit works. Because if you're not operating from self-love, you're operating from self-hate in some areas of you. And if you're operating from self-hate, you cannot bring into your reality what you actually desire because you're not operating from a place of purity. It all starts with unconditional self-love. Unconditional self-love could look like when you make a mistake or something doesn't go the way you want it, instead of shaming yourself and getting pissed at yourself, maybe just take a step back and say, you know what? It's okay. Throw in some downstream thoughts. It's all right. Maybe that wasn't meant for me. It's okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn. I think most humans in the world forget that success is literally just fucking up mistake after mistake after mistake until something finally sticks. That is what success is. You're not going to get there without fucking up at least 100 times along the way. I can maintain my physique now, sure, but I had an eating disorder for 10 years. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing when I first started lifting for like the first 3 years. I binged and lost weight and gained weight and lost weight, but I'm here now. It's okay to make mistakes. And most of us, pretty much all of us, shame ourselves whenever we do make a mistake. That, my friend, is conditional love. And we need to start unlearning that. That's where the magic happens. When you start loving yourself unconditionally, you literally know in your spirit, in your soul, I deserve any fucking thing that I want. And when you actually know that, I don't mean belief. Belief is like, yeah, I can see that. Knowing is, I know to my fucking core. When you love yourself unconditionally, you know you deserve whatever you want. And when you actually know it, what do you think you're putting out into the universe energetically? What do you think you're going to get back energetically? The math is mathing, guys. 1 + 1 is 2, not 3. Okay? Please stop being so obsessed with point B. That literally just pushes your goal away further and further and further. Be where your feet are at right now. Give yourself some fucking grace for where you are right now. When you focus on the end goal too much, you're not present. You're not grounded. You're not focusing on what's actually happening in the moment right now. And when you're not focusing on what's happening in the moment right now, how can you move forward? It's impossible because you're trying to live in the future. And the future's not there. There's no time machines, guys. Maybe Elon Musk has one, I don't fucking know. But you don't have access to one. So stop obsessing over something that 9 times out of 10 will probably not happen. I call it future scarcity obsession. Like, oh my God, in 6 months I'm gonna be broke, and oh my God, I'm not gonna be married in a year. Why are you focusing on that? How about right now? What can we do right now in this moment? That's where the magic happens again. Okay, so some things that we can do to work on increasing our alpha brainwaves, increasing these theta brainwaves, because when we get into alpha brainwaves, like I was talking about, the more meditative state, restful state, creative state, present state, and then theta brainwaves is where you're in this drowsy state. So theta, just to clarify, I don't think I said this, we go into theta brainwaves twice a day. Theta is when your brain is very drowsy. So you go into theta as you're falling asleep, and you're in theta as you're waking up. And in those moments, you can also put yourself into a state of theta with hypnosis. That's a whole nother conversation. I don't think I want to do that today. But you can put yourself into theta phase as an adult because your brain's done developing. If you're younger than 25, you can still put your brain into theta. It's actually a little bit easier to put your brain into theta. Okay? When you put your brain into theta, the subconscious brain is completely open for suggestion. It is a sponge. So if you put yourself into theta brainwaves and you're saying these affirmations, the incremental ones, the incremental beliefs, like instead of making 4K a month like I used to, I now make 6K a month. I'm so glad that I love myself unconditionally now. Making friends is easy. That career goal I have is easy. Whatever it is, I'm not going to sit here and go through everyone's list of what they want, but you get my point. When you're in theta phase, when you're in that drowsy state, you can put yourself in there. That is when the brain is open to suggestion. That's when you can get rid of those limiting beliefs. If your limiting belief is, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm lovable, I deserve all the happiness in the world. And giving your brain proof of that while you're in theta phase. There's different ways to do this. And then putting yourself into alpha brainwaves more frequently allows you to get into theta phase more easily as well. So like alpha and theta kind of work together, right? So ways to increase alpha brainwaves: meditation, breath work, just breathing and grounding. You know, all that woo-woo shit you guys see on the internet, it actually works. It actually works. 3 of us at least on here can attest to that. And then journaling. Journaling is powerful because it takes all the shit in your subconscious brain and it dumps it onto paper. This is how we observe our thoughts. This is called metacognition. This is one of the biggest things I coach on. Metacognition is observing the thoughts that are in the back of your head. And the easiest way to do that is to journal, because once you start writing, your brain ends up dumping all this shit on paper. And you're like, holy shit, I didn't know I struggled with that. And now that we can see it on paper, now we can actually work with it, which is why journaling is so powerful. Meditation, breathwork, journaling, biggest things you can do as far as getting into alpha brainwaves and actually, dude, having a better life. The more we can put ourselves into alpha brainwaves, the more we can increase our alpha brainwave frequencies, less depression, less anxiety, you're happier more, you're more content, you're more grateful. Literally becoming a fucking Buddhist monk. Like quite literally. If you're someone that struggles with anxiety or depression, you need to be doing all three of these things: meditation, some sort of breathing, and journaling 5 days a week at least. It has to become a non-negotiable if getting to your goals and getting to your higher self is actually important to you. It must become a non-negotiable. And hey, if you don't do any of these, don't start with all three. Just pick one. Okay, pick one that you can be consistent with every day and make it a priority, because this is how we start to feel better mentally, right? Fuck the dopamine hits, do the internal work, and that's when everything starts to change. Okay, that's all I got. Any questions, guys? All the feedback, we'd love to hear it.
That was fucking amazing.
Thanks. I do my best. I feel like I was rambling a lot, but
No, you're good.
No, mind blown for sure.
thanks, guys. I love the hype up. I appreciate it. I'm gonna.
Ways, what are some ways that you can suggest to show people, or to allow people to show themselves more unconditional love?
Unconditional love. Yeah. I think the easiest way to do it is to just start becoming conscious of the unconscious. Start becoming conscious of those negative thoughts you have, right? The ones like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. Bring those to the surface. And in those moments, ask yourself, like literally, like envision, I don't know if any of you, aside from us coaches, have done inner child work, but like literally envision a younger version of you. Like 6 years old. Fully envision that shit. What are they wearing? What do they look like? What facial expression do they have? How's their hair look? What shoes are they wearing? Fully envision that. And when those negative thoughts come up, ask your inner child, like, what do you need right now? Those negative thoughts are not coming up for no fucking reason. They're there for a reason. They were triggered to come up. What do you need from me right now? How can I support you? That could look like anything. It could look like being more gentle with yourself. Stop talking to yourself so poorly. Like, damn, I'm fucking stupid. I'm guilty of this too. I do it sometimes too. Like, damn, that was dumb as fuck, Ashley. Why'd you do that? Be kind to yourself. Shifting your language, shifting your inner dialogue is the quickest and easiest way to do it. So when those negative thoughts come in, it's like, you know what? I made a mistake and that gets to be okay. I love myself when I make mistakes. I love myself more when I make mistakes because that's giving me an opportunity for growth and expansion. That's giving me an opportunity to learn. Mistakes are the shit. I want to make more mistakes. So just growing into that love and acceptance when the negative thoughts come up, and give it what it needs. Like give it the opposite of whatever's coming up. If it's like, I'm not lovable enough, I am lovable, right? Or I'm not smart enough. Give your brain proof. Actually, I am really fucking smart in this area. I'm not attractive enough. Find something about your physical appearance that you actually do love. I don't care if it's your eyes. So it's giving your brain the evidence that that thing that came up actually is not true. And then just pouring a fuck ton of love on it. And then like self-love practices, guys, like whatever that looks like for you. I personally romanticize my coffee every morning. Like I make it a whole ordeal, or sometimes I'll go buy a coffee, just romanticize it. That's a form of self-love for me because I thoroughly enjoy coffee. Or maybe for you, when you were a kid, you used to love to draw and sketch. You don't do it anymore because you're an adult. Get back to drawing, get back to sketching. What do you actually love to do? Oh, I love to go to the movies. Take yourself on a fucking movie date. Go out to eat by yourself. Date yourself. That is how we start to pour unconditional love back into ourselves. And also boundaries, guys. If someone's treating you like shit or they're not treating you with unconditional love, just X them out. It's all good. Yeah. Anybody else? And guys, you can ask me questions about literally your personal life too. Like I'm here for it. All the trauma. I'm just gonna stop sharing for this part.